before the holidays, all of this activity is happening over New Jersey. The media is going nuts, the members of Congress. And then it seems like after the holidays, the issue went away. Is that because the drones went away or because we suddenly care about other things?
It's because we're Americans and, who's the American Idol this week? We get very distracted.
So the drones are still there?
As far as I know, and they haven't. And so the exact quote from Eli Crane, the former Navy SEAL who's now a Republican in Congress, is, I don't think everything's fine. The people who are paying attention are unsettled, and especially as they keep pressing the Pentagon and FBI for answers and hearing no answers, it is unsettling to the core. And now, yes, lawmakers would love, I've been a reporter covering Congress 19 years, so I've covered for Playboy and Rolling Stone, I covered cannabis and those issues, and incoming Secretary of State Marco Rubio at one point quipped with me, "Oh, you just want to talk about pot?" And then I ask him about this issue, and he's like, "Hey, let's talk about pot." They would rather talk about anything than this, because this kind of shows how powerless they are, because they've been asking these questions now for months and months, more than a year, and they haven't been getting not only satisfactory answers that they can share with their constituents, they haven't gotten satisfactory answers for themselves and their families and their communities, etc.
I had Seb Gorka on the show the other day, and he is the incoming senior director for counterterrorism at the National Security Council. I asked him about this issue. He said there's an open source document that lays out that there is a drone corridor that the FAA has been very open about. That there's, it's open source articles and discussions of it in this area, and the governor of New Jersey's read in on this whole thing. Do you buy that?
Last time I talked to Mr. Gorka, he called me a scumbag because I came under the mantle of Vice News. But Seb Gorka, he knows a lot more than me. The one thing that we're seeing with members of the Congressional UAP caucus, especially many of them are from, many of them are Trump supporters, but it's totally bipartisan. But many of them are hoping that people like Marco Rubio, who's supposed to be incoming Secretary of State, well, when he was vice chair of the Senate Intel Committee across from Warner, he was the one pushing very heavily on this issue, and he wasn't getting the answers he wanted. And so anytime I hear someone come down with definitive hard answers privately, or even just in a one-off interview or one-off conversation, I'm like, all right, share that info with the rest of Congress, because they're really freaking out. And so if Gorka is fine with this and knows what's going on, hey, when President Trump gets inaugurated here in a couple weeks, please share that information, at least with Congress, if not with all the American people, because right now, no. Yeah, well,
that's
what even the governor of Jersey doesn't believe.
Well, that's why I respect Seb, but I'm also like, if it's such an open source document, then why aren't these other politicians aware of it? And why isn't everyone just saying, yeah, look at this, it's an open source document. Here's the thing. There was this manifesto that the guy who blew up the Cybertruck in front of the Trump Hotel over the holidays left, where he talks about an invasion from China and all of these concerns that he had. Are you aware of the document? Do you share the concerns that he raised?
Well, I think with this, I lack a lot of knowledge, but one thing I do know is we have a mental health crisis here in America, and seeing that, veteran blow himself up discussing this issue, my heart bleeds for the veterans who aren't getting the mental health care they need after we throw them into war. He brought up stuff where he actually claimed this was China and America working together on anti-gravity, or
right.
He went to places that no lawmakers or no officials who I've talked to have gone. And so with that, I think it's just tragic.
But
Losing
you
the
don't
wits.
you don't think that there's any validity to it.
I haven't heard anyone
No,
who
but
thinks
your
there's any
point.
validity. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. All right. I want to kind of turn to the UAP part of this, because the drone is obviously in the news. But there's been all these hearings about things that pilots have seen, and they've now what used to be called UFOs when I was growing up, probably when you were growing up, are now UAPs. What do we know? Because of these hearings, like in terms of what our government is aware of when it comes to UFOs, UAPs, however we're calling them.
Well, and this is where, again, it gets, sliced and diced according to who you're talking to. But right after that Chinese balloon invaded U.S. airspace last year, I believe, or no, the year before, you had this whistleblower, David Grush, who's now testified in front of the House Oversight Committee. He worked for U.S. Intel, and he's a veteran, worked for Intel. After his public hearing, and half that hearing, he said to lawmakers, I can't answer that question. It has to be in a classified setting. Well, I haven't heard anyone debunk him. And with some senators on the Intel committee, like Senator Warner, talking with him about David Grush's claims, Warner kind of looks at me like, hey, there's an answer for that. I can't tell you about it publicly, which is what they don't give me when asking about the drones. And so with that and those claims, because he claims there was craft that the U.S. government has recovered, and that, there's biologics that were recovered. Again, I've not heard anyone in the U.S. government refute that publicly. And when he was brought in before the House Oversight Committee in a public hearing, right, left, and center in Congress came away saying he's very credible. And since then, they've had a string of maybe 3 to 5 classified skiff briefings, and so there are, and he's not alone. There's other pilots. There's Lou Elizondo, who just dropped a book last year and then went on Daily Show and all those. There was a second public UAP hearing last year in the Oversight Committee in November, right after the election. And Congress is definitely intrigued, or large swaths of this Congress are intrigued and think the federal government is hiding stuff from Congress and the American people on, space programs, for lack of a better term, UAP, UFO stuff. But no one's really said that they have the smoking gun for that. And so we're going to continue to see that investigation roll out, even as we're seeing more attention brought to the issue from these drone incursions. And I think the big takeaway is the American government does not have complete control of U.S. airspace. And that is unsettling everyone on Capitol Hill who gives this subject a second of their thought.
It's amazing that what you just said, where it's like, we have no idea about the way the lawmakers react between the drones and the UAPs, right? With the drones, we don't know anything. With the UAPs, we can't tell you. Which makes me believe, so I'll ask you this. How much has the U.S. government, particularly the Pentagon, admitted when it comes to the existence of alien craft or being?
That's where, if you actually look at the history books, and again, I'm new to this issue, but if you look at the history books, there has been a history of reportings of these, and even the Roswell incident, there was initial reporting from the Air Force saying, hey, there was this unknown craft, and then next day it was kind of like wiped from the presses. And so you have varying degrees of skepticism within Congress, looking at, because the big overall fear with lawmakers, especially on the Congressional UAP caucus, is that they have there's extra governmental power being brought in to this issue. By that I mean, Trump and the Doge Committee, Elon Musk, they're going after the administrative state. What's the administrative state? That's kind of the fourth branch of government, unelected bureaucrats who are running things. That's the fear with this issue, is that there's this fourth estate at work here, where with those SAPs or special access programs, the big claim from that whistleblower, David Grush, was that, hey, Congress, even though the Constitution says all the funding needs to come from you, hey, there are programs being hidden from you that are using your funds, but that are, not disclosing this to you. And so, again, at the, pressing lawmakers on this, pressing two senior senators of the Intelligence Committee, Senator Rounds, Republican from South Dakota, and then, again, Senator Gillibrand, Democrat from New York, pressing them on this after, they fought hard to get more disclosure in the National Defense Authorization Bill, or NDAA, 2 years ago. Well, a year after it passed, I was like, hey, do you believe that Congress now knows everything? And they were like, no, we believe that the executive branch is still hiding stuff from us in Congress. And so I think that's kind of the big takeaway to me, is Congress doesn't believe the executive branch on this, and Congress is now on the hunt. And so we'll see how that ends up.
Yeah, but has the Pentagon admitted that they have a program? I mean, have they come clean and say, yeah, we monitor this stuff? Maybe not we have it, but we monitor it?
The Pentagon, from what I hear, is no, not really. I mean, the Pentagon allowed a balloon to invade U.S. airspace. And so what the Pentagon is now telling members of Congress is, hey, we need more sensors. We need more money, because that's what the Pentagon wants, is more and more of our money. But because they say they can't view different layers of the sky. And if you remember, after that Chinese balloon came into U.S. airspace, the U.S. Air Force then, in a matter of days, shot down 3 different objects.
Right, but that's the thing. If you could shoot down the balloon, I just don't get this. It's like, here's the drone, here are these things. Send something up. Maybe you don't catch it. Maybe you just take pictures of it. But there's something so odd about the inability to just say, we'll just go up there and hang a drone out until it comes by and then we'll photograph it. I don't get it.
Well, and that's what I'm really planning to push lawmakers on here in these next couple of weeks is, have they shot anything down?
Right.
Have you seen it? Have you asked to see it? And a lot of times lawmakers stop short of asking to see those pictures because one of those objects was brought down over Alaska. And initially those senators said, we never asked to see it. Well, and then Senator Sullivan said, maybe he did see some things, but they're fuzzy on it. And so that's where, especially these days, the digital camera era or the digital phone era, I think that's what's kind of awoken Congress too, is because now they're seeing a lot more objects, getting a lot more reports, whether from pilots or from Jane and Joe Citizen, because us as the public, the more we record stuff, the FAA is supposed to know everything flying so that when we're flying home to grandma, our plane doesn't hit X, Y, and Z in the sky.
Exactly.
And right now, we just don't have that certainty, which is unsettling to, let's demand our money back.
Yeah. Matt Laslo, keep at it, brother. I appreciate it. Everybody go to askapol.com because you can see the questions he asked. And I love hearing the reaction from the lawmakers. So I appreciate you joining us and what you're doing out there to get answers for us, because it is scary, and you're holding these guys accountable and making sure that they know what their primary objective is, which is to keep us safe. So thanks a lot. I appreciate you joining us. Have a great weekend.
I do love making them squirm.
Have a great weekend, Matt.
Cheers.
Great conversation with Matt. Thanks for tuning in. We've got a huge week lined up as we get ready for the inauguration. Remember, all the information on the inauguration and the transition that's at SeanSpicer.com. Sign up for my free newsletter. We will see you back here on Monday. Have a great weekend. Thanks for tuning in. Well, if you enjoyed this content, make sure to like this video, subscribe, and click the notification bell to get more.